everybody, welcome to Real Estate Raw and Uncut, the real real estate show. We're at episode 10.
Wow.
Double digits, baby. Congrats.
You too, man.
So every Friday, you guys can catch us right here. Subscribe up below so you don't miss one. Today's topic, should I buy single family or multifamily long term? And we're going to be basically talking from an investment standpoint. Obviously, if you have a family and you just want a home, you probably would look single family, but that's not an investment. So from an investment standpoint, you want to make some money long term. Which way are you going to go with this? And is it market dependent?
No, I'm leaning towards multifamily.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that I'm looking at the risk side of things. And if I'm going to buy a single family, let's see, it's middle class neighborhood, and I'm buying that property for $150,000. Well, I can probably get a $200,000 multifamily, and the cost per unit property is $100,000, or $200,000 for the single family, or $150,000 for the single family.
Okay.
So per unit, or for 2 units, I could have those 2 streams of income coming in at $100,000 a piece, so I can pay off that mortgage a little faster. And the next thing is, what happens if you got to take into account vacancies.
Right.
So what happens in a single family if you have a vacancy?
Zero.
Your income stream is completely gone for that single family, so you're at total risk. So I would recommend that you have at least 6 month reserves on that property sitting aside, just doing nothing.
So many people don't account for that when they're looking at investments. They're just running best case scenario when you really want to be putting in 5 to 10% for your vacancies, for your reserves, depending on the size of the property, depending on the maintenance required. There's a lot of numbers people are missing. Then they get into it and they can get hurt pretty bad.
Oh, absolutely. So you want to defer your risk as best you possibly can. So increase your number of units up to 4, because you get over 4 and then you become commercial.
Yeah.
And when you start this as a novice, you get into the 1 to 4, maybe even live in one of those units.
And learn the systems, create the system so that you know your numbers inside and out, so that when you go to step up into more of commercial multifamily, 5 units and up, in the state of Connecticut, 5 units and up is considered commercial.
Correct.
You know what you're doing. You know how to account for vacancies and reserves and all of that. And then, how about a return, right? You want to account for a return on investment.
You hope.
Most of these guys that are investors out there are looking for around 10%, or it's not going to be worth it for them to pick up 2 or 3% a year. They can put their money somewhere else.
Unless you think that the market is appreciating so quickly, and in order to get that property, the owners realize that the properties are appreciating quickly. So you may have to take your ROI and bring it down to 0.
Okay. Because in the next 2-3 years you're going to be up to 10.
Correct.
Or close to 10 where you want to be. When would it make sense from an investment standpoint to go single family, or is there ever a time to invest in single family? There's a lot of
I would say yes.
Over the last 3 or 4 years, we've seen like some of those big companies buy up bulks in Atlanta and different places.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps it may make sense to go single family if it's short term.
Yeah.
So if you're short term, absolutely. If you're flipping the property, so if you've got a property,
or creating a portfolio like these really big companies
like
are doing.
A real estate investment trust that has single family, maybe. But now you're deferring your risk with vacancies because you've got so many properties spread out over different areas that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, but if you're mom and pop investor going in, looking to the long term, I would say multifamilies are the way to go.
And more units, the better. If you can do it.
More units, the better. Now that being said, if you let's say you've got 3 units, but they're all efficiencies or 1 bedrooms.
Yeah.
That's crazy, because what you've done is those are people that are coming in or renting those properties or those units are transient.
Yeah.
They don't have a family which is going to keep them stable. So you've got a ton of turnover. Yeah. So I would recommend in the 1 to 4 or the 2 to 4 family, you still have a 2 to 3 bedroom, 2 bath. Because now you've got people that are entrenched, they're becoming part of the community, part of that building. They're not going to be moving quite so much.
No. Or maybe one bedroom mixed in. If they're all one bedrooms, you got a lot of single people. You can have a lot of fun too.
I hear you. I hear you. So
what do you got there? You got some bullet points. You can find some of this good information in the description below.
So what are the two things that you can do to improve the cash flow of the property?
Well, if it's a single family, it's going to be tough to improve cash flow unless you've got like a bunch
dog
of storage
that you bring
units
to
in the driveway. Yeah, I mean, you're going to raise the rent, right? And then it's going to make it difficult, whatever market value is, to keep it
Throw some coin off
rented.
laundry.
Coin, yeah, you can start collecting quarters in the basement on your single family, maybe.
So you're probably going to increase the income of the property with a multi if you
With
take
your
it,
multi, yeah.
and decrease the property costs. So some things that you can do if you have a good property manager as well.
Yeah, get a property manager in there, decrease the costs, and then maybe you can start raising rents. When somebody moves out, you go in there and you fix up a unit, raise the rent.
You've been working with some pretty astute investors as of late, and
Yeah.
you've been running numbers for them. What's the difference between you and somebody else that's out there that really doesn't know how to handle a multi-family? What are the questions you're answering? And I put them, bullet pointed them here, so it's not tough for you. But
yeah, I mean, even if you're looking at a 20-unit building, right, and all of the 20 units are filled at that time, so you've got all the leases, you know what they're renting for, so you can take that number, divide it by 20, you've got your average for the 20 units. That doesn't mean that the investor that I'm representing isn't going to account for vacancies, right?
They should.
They should, because the minute he closes, 3 people could need evictions or decide to move out or whatever the case may be, and now your vacancy rate's over 10% like that. So you want to account for somewhere close to 10%. If you know it's always been close to full occupancy year over year, then maybe you account for 5. It's property by property. But using the tools and some of the tools that you've set up, it makes it easy to be able to put these numbers in and make sense of a big unit complex or building.
So some of the things that we'll go into, and we'll look at the spreadsheet, but you've got to look at the expenses for the property.
Oh, yeah.
You've got to look at your potential income. You've got to look at reserves. You've got to look at the market as a whole.
Are you paying heat for these units? Is it a
Management.
Is it a 20-unit condo building that you're buying? So now you're paying HOAs for all 20 units. Are you paying the management fees? Are you paying for cleaning every time somebody moves out? Are you putting in new carpets every time somebody moves out?
You're telling me it's a math problem, because once you collect the information, it's just punching in the numbers.
All it is a math problem. If you've got a 2-family and somebody moves out, you're 50% vacant. Well, if you can bump it up and get a 4-unit building, somebody moves out, you're only 25% vacant, which changes your numbers dramatically when you start running them.
So this does, in fact, become a math problem, but you've got to ask the right questions, and a really good realtor out there that knows which questions to ask can make this a fairly simple equation.
It really is a math problem, but there's still, it's real estate, so there's always going to be an element of location involved in this, but the location is already probably driving your rents to a certain point. If you're in a really good location, then the rents are probably already established higher than if you were in a different location.
That, and when you're buying, remember, you got to buy smart. So you want to buy a property that may be selling for a little less than what the surrounding properties are, and it has cosmetic issues as opposed to structural, mechanical, or safety issues, which are going to completely kill you in your flow down the road.
Especially if you're tight on your net income or your ROI. So
absolutely. You want to take a look at maybe a little math problem?
Absolutely, guys. We've got a little screen capture for you. Go right into it. Check this out. It's less than a minute?
Yeah.
So this is more of a value add to you guys, a little bit of inside look of how we would break down a multi-unit building. All right? And catch us every Friday right here. Real Estate Raw and Uncut.
Your monthly cash flow analysis is calculated by subtracting the monthly expenses, which I have here on the right-hand side, from your monthly rental revenue. And as long as you're left with a positive number, no matter how small it may be, you're probably in pretty good shape. And assuming that you use conservative assumptions here when you did your real estate analysis and you didn't overpay for the property, it should already be carrying itself. In other words, you should be at least breaking even right out of the gate. Now keep in mind that your property cash flow will always be the tightest in the beginning. Usually it's the first year that's tight as you recover from making the purchase, replacing your tenants, and completing deferred maintenance. After the first year, your rental property cash flow will probably improve over time.